friends at Tivoli Brewing Company and the Department of Communication Arts and Sciences at MSU Denver, this is Unfiltered. And here are your hosts, Jay Schrader and Dr. Samuel J.
When they come to take you down, when they bring that way.
Christina, it's Christine.
Kristen.
Jesus. Wow. We haven't had a beer yet.
I had one at lunch.
No, he's a banker. He has an excuse. He's
It was a WeldWerks Hefeweizen.
bullshitting
so
with people.
What can I say? At least I win in Rome, right?
Win in Rome. All right. Are we kind of in there, everybody?
I think
Jay, do
just
you want to be on there?
Yeah, you know.
No. We'll have the...
No, Colin's the man of the hour, not me.
yeah.
I can do one of these every once in a while.
Christine, well, I guess... Well,
Kristen.
No, that's a purpose. I'm on purpose going to call you Christine from now on. So, or Christina. Kristen.
Can you just answer to anything for the rest of the podcast?
Yes.
If it's got a K.
Please.
Oh, I was saying it Christina with a C.
No, you were all confused. That's good. Jay, this is a very special one for us today.
Furthest I've
This-
gone for the show.
I was thinking. I mean, this is the star at the top of the Christmas tree. This is
Yeah.
WeldWerks Brewing Company in Greeley, Colorado, and somehow we made it. Thanks, Justin Winselman.
Yeah,
Wow.
Christina with a C, Justin Wenzelman.
Yes.
Yeah, Justin Wenzelman. Stratagem CPA, by the way.
Look at him. He's here.
A little extra. Yeah, Justin made the drive, same as the rest of us. But setting that up, we're excited to be here at WeldWerks. And this must be our extra special guest.
Oh my gosh, we're getting
Or
filled up.
our
filled
other
up.
guests.
Yes. All right. Before we jump into a bunch of introductions, Kristen,
Christ almighty, Colin is...
what is your title here at WeldWerks?
I'm our director of operations.
Okay, so you run the show. You are.
I wear many hats.
I was going to say you put a lot of pieces together for sure. Okay.
Try.
And how long have you been here? Since day one?
Since day -4 months.
Okay. Wow. So you were
I was
on
our
board
first,
early.
yeah.
And do you have any background in brewing, or I mean, this was your first kind of?
No, not at all. I mean, this is a first for, well, most of us here,
Right.
actually. Yeah, just right place, right time.
Okay. Very cool.
How'd you get sucked in then?
By very fortunate circumstances. I knew Colin's wife at the time, and we were working together then, and she was like, hey, husband's opening a brewery. And I was like, count me in.
Bold move.
Pretty fortuitous. That's
yeah,
good.
no shit.
Yeah.
How many times has somebody said that to you, Sam, and you were like, I don't think so?
Yeah. Like, who wants to open a brewery? Okay, so are you from up here, Greeley way?
No, I'm originally from Indiana. I've been in Colorado about 6 years,
Okay.
and I actually just moved to Greeley about 4 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was commuting from Fort Collins for a long time.
How far of a drive is it from Fort Collins here?
It's like 45 minutes at most.
So it's still not okay, but I mean,
There's a drive, but
yeah, it's a
worth
haul.
it.
And who's this young man next to you? We'll have to share mics, everybody.
This one, Colin, this is you, by the way.
I'm
You get it
Dereck
dedicated.
Gold. I'm the lead brewer here at WeldWerks.
Okay, Dereck. And how long have you been the lead brewer here at WeldWerks?
I've been here for 3 months.
3 months.
Give or
wow.
take.
What do you think so far? You hate your bosses?
Oh, so much.
You just want to leave. What's your backstory? Where'd you come from?
I came from Left Hand. I
Okay.
was there for 7 years.
Okay, awesome.
That was my first brewery, and just had a homebrewing background prior to that.
Okay, fantastic. Cheers to that. And then last but not least, Colin. What's your last name, Colin?
It's me.
It's
Colin.
you. It's you. It's Colin. It's me.
It's a me.
It's a me, Mario.
It's appropriate given Derek's shirt, I think, today.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it is. That. Oh, wow. It's a combination of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Mario. That's
Yeah,
a badass
that's pretty
shirt.
sweet.
I need that.
Exactly right.
Okay, so Colin, you are you're one of the head honchos here. I guess all of you are extremely important.
Yeah,
obviously.
co-founder, CEO.
Okay. All right. Where do we want to begin? I guess we should begin with the big weekend. That's what everybody's kind of asking us about. Your big annual kind of shit show was this last weekend, right?
Absolutely.
How'd it go?
It went absolutely wonderful.
Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we upped the ticket count by about 50 people per session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rearranged the room layout, opened it up a little bit more. So even though we had a little bit more people, hopefully they didn't feel it all that much. We definitely had plenty of beer to flow.
Right.
Nobody did not get what they everybody got what they wanted of all these rare beers and everything else. But in terms of planning, execution, all that kind of project management piece of it, flawless. It was a hell of a lot easier the second time around just because we were able to really just pull the trigger again on what was implemented last year, systems, process, procedure kind of shit. This year we were just able to tweak it a little bit more to make it a little bit even better. So fixing some of the issues from last year, incorporating some new ideas this year, like the silent auction.
Okay.
We did do one last year. This one was a little bit more organized. Spread the love across other breweries a little bit more, and ended up netting even more proceeds for charity.
Fantastic.
So all in all, very wonderful festival. We think we're going to clear probably about 20% more for charity this year compared to last year, just from efficiencies.
So for those who don't know about the festival and the kind of, the weekend, can you just a little bit of premise of what goes on and how things got started and also the name of it?
Yeah, so we've kind of, it'd been a long time dream to be able to put something on an event that would have a huge impact on our community and also drive people to Greeley. And so it's kind of been a pet project for a little while that we finally decided to pull the trigger on. We actually spun up a WeldWerks Community Foundation last year in order to kind of facilitate all of this, and that's just been awesome. We raised $40,000 last year,
Wow.
Which we dispersed among a handful of really amazing organizations locally here, which was very cool. But yeah, our dream was to create a festival that was going to be a little bit more intimate and intentional. We've been making friends with some of the best breweries in the world the past few years, which has been awesome. So we wanted an experience that was very brewer-centric, for all of us to kind of get together and hang, get to know each other, but also that was just kind of a different experience for the festival goers too. We have all breweries that participate. It's owners and head brewers and kind of decision-making people who are really familiar with the ins and outs of every facet of their organization. So festival goers can, sit there and interact with the people that are the head honchos over there, which is kind of a cool experience.
Kristen, can you drop a couple brewery names for us? Just tell us who was here. Like, what did Sam and I miss out on?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What breweries were here? I mean, who else was in the house over the weekend?
We had 46 breweries, and I think all but about 12 were from out of state. So we really sourced, from all over the country. We had Voodoo and Side Project and Other Half, whose actually beer did not make it, sadly.
But the brewers were here.
The brewers. Stephen Pauls from Boulevardia. We had Eric Salazar from Other Half. Kurt and Thomas from Voodoo.
We did a lot of collabs with these breweries while they were here as well. So we did a collaboration with American Solera, which is really cool. We knocked out straight into barrels, and those are fermenting right now.
Wow.
We did collabs with Voodoo, with Great Notion, with Microphone. So we're super excited for all of that.
So are you just a beer nerd? Like, are you just a beer nerd? Like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did the home brewing start then for you? Like, was it? It's interesting. We get the typical stories, and then we've had this run where we're getting brewers who couldn't buy beer in college, so they started making it in their closet. And
That's
we
our
never
new
really thought
favorite.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it what was your story? What was your kind of introduction to beer?
I did an Oregon trip through Portland and along
Okay.
the coast with my wife probably 10, 11 years ago.
Okay.
And that's what really got me into craft beer. And then I worked with somebody who was homebrewing
Okay.
who kind of got me into it. And then it sort of became an obsession and eventually a career.
That's amazing. And so this place, obviously, kind of a mecca in terms of front range beer.
Oh, absolutely.
When you, when did you learn about WeldWerks? I mean, was it something that was always kind of you?
I was here opening weekend, so
Okay.
I used to live in Greeley.
Okay.
And the craft beer scene here wasn't, amazing. There were some breweries that were doing some cool stuff. I mean, Crabtree was here for quite a while. But it was exciting to see WeldWerks open, and I wanted to check them out with some people that I was working with at Left Hand at the time.
Okay.
And so I was aware of them pretty early on.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Before I forget, because this tends to happen when there's alcohol around. What was the kind of relationship when you launched this thing with the city of Greeley? Like, I understand that everybody probably asks you that with every podcast interview, but just to kind of create a baseline for our listeners, the city, I assume, has embraced WeldWerks. Was it always like that, day one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They really helped us with being very patient with us, kind of being general contractors on our own project.
Oh, nice.
We didn't hire anybody for that. So It was me and Kristen and Neil and a ragtag team of volunteers doing everything that you see. Now, mind you, we didn't stand up walls and some of these other things, but all of the demolition aspects of it, chipping up tile and everything in between, we took all that on ourselves. And we had never submitted a business building plan to the city planner department before, and so they were very, very gracious with us, very patient with us. Very much got some handshake kind of deals, like, we'll let you do this, just promise you do this next week after you open. And it's like, oh, yes, okay. No problem at all. And we definitely fulfilled our obligations there. But even to this current date and time, we have a lot of projects going on right now all over the brewery. If you walk through, there's just construction everywhere. And they've been very gracious to, again, on a handshake deal, not look the other way. They're keeping a very close eye on us. But they're allowing us to proceed with some elements of construction while some prerequisites that maybe would have stopped that permit, they've allowed that permit to go through. They like business. They're hungry for it. They like the revenue, obviously, as a result. But anything that I think casts Greeley in a spotlight, something that can give our brewery or city a good name, they're going to support wholly. So it's just a great town to do business in. No speed bumps.
Yeah.
And you guys are, as far as I can tell, and I did some laps around the town. It's been a long time since I've been in Greeley. You're just a stone's throw from the center of the city and the government buildings and everything else. So, I mean, you're pretty critical, I would say, or I would imagine at least, to proximity here and business lunches and the courthouse and everything else. Am I wrong?
Absolutely, and it was definitely our pinball.
We have our extra special guests of honor.
Yes, that's amazing.
And if they're anything like I was when I was a kid, there's not a single quarter in that machine. There's not a single ball rolling right now.
hitting the
I will give you
flappers.
$10 if you pause for 10 minutes.
It's okay. Adds to the ambiance.
The good news is, I think between Sam and I alone, we got 5 kids between us. Justin's got a few at home. Yeah, so we're all used to
We
it.
can also feed them whiskey.
Helps them sleep.
That'll stop it.
Exactly.
But no, we were absolutely dedicated to being downtown in Greeley. I love I'm into the foodie scene. I love to go out. I love to experience the city centers, and anywhere that you go, whether Denver or Colorado Springs or Fort Collins or really anywhere, there's usually a very cute kind of downtown area where people are, if it's not a hot spot like maybe Fort Collins and Denver, those cities that aren't being able to experience that downtown revival right away, or at least investing in that downtown experience. And so I think everybody's catching on that downtown heartbeat is the vibe of the city, and investing accordingly into that. And so sure, we could have been way out west, and that's where the majority of the population is, and we still kind of fight this I'm not going to go over that other side of the tracks thing here in Greeley, this east versus west kind of a thing. But we are helping to get people over that mindset.
Yeah.
No, there's not a lot of gang activity downtown. You can safely walk anywhere downtown, I promise you. And so it's just helping to kind of turn that conversation around and really give people an eye into what a downtown community experience can be, even if it's just here in little old Greeley. So it truly was this building or bust.
Well, and it's an amazing building. It's beautiful. I've never been up here. The other thing that surprises me about it, I happen to have come in from Eaton this morning, actually, for another job. But you guys really strike me as being kind of really where two worlds intersect, right? I mean, you're right on the edge of an industrial and rural agricultural community where everybody can and probably is coming in from the farms and the ranches out north and east, but then you're also on the other end of town where you've got a college community nearby and lots of homes and lots of people. And Christ, it seemed like 1 million houses being built between I-25 and Greeley itself. So I can't imagine there's a recipe for too much failure here.
Yeah, and we're beneficiaries both in business and in residential of a town that's still affordable to get into. From a business standpoint, we couldn't have afforded to buy this property in Denver or really anywhere else, and so being in Greeley just gives you a lot of ability to do what we've done. And you can kind of see it as you go down this 8th Avenue corridor and you drive it from north to south. Ton of apartments going down there close to the college, a great college. We have all the key ingredients to a successful city, and people forget about that. We have a great hospital system. We have a great state college. We have a great library district. You have all of those kind of core elements that make a city vibrant, no matter, even in a downturn. You have these supportive services that aren't going anywhere. Compared to a town like Eaton, definitely a lot smaller. Are they going to have a huge hospital anytime soon? We have 2. Are they going to have a state college anytime soon? Not a knock on Eaton. I actually love Eaton, and I've used to work there quite a bit. But it's just Greeley is the kind of the little kid in the state that was always a proper city. Maybe didn't catch the growth curve that a Denver did, that a Fort Collins did, that anybody else did, but the growth opportunity is there. And we're going to be happy to fill all their glasses full of yummy liquid. So
Yeah, send them this way, that's for sure. So you talked about ingredients. Let's talk about beer ingredients.
Yeah, let's get into that because
that's really why we're here. Mike, hand it over to Dereck. I think Dereck's going to run the show for a few minutes here. I don't even know where to begin. We've got everything but bananas, right? We've got vanilla beans. We've got Breckenridge bourbon barrels. What won't you brew beer in or with? Let me start there.
I don't think there's anything we won't brew beer with. And I mean, that's kind of the amazing thing about WeldWerks, is that there's just so much creative freedom here and nothing's off the table, and everybody is able to kind of lend their voice and kind of pitch ideas, and I haven't heard a no yet. So
out here in Colorado, we have had a crazy long snow season. So skiers and snowboarders out there have basically been able to get deep into June without hanging up any of their gear. And so in celebration of how awesome it's been, our friends over at Denver Sports Lab, Sam and Leaf, wanted to let you know about some specials that they are running. And if you have any questions about what I'm going to tell you here, feel free to give them a call at 720-383-8999, or you can email them at contact@denversportslab.com. Now, before I get into the specials, let me tell you that Sam and Leaf will ship what you need across the country, but these deals are pretty great, and so make sure that you take advantage of them if you're preparing for the next season, or maybe you damage some gear skiing on those rocks at the back end of this past season. Whatever it is, if you need to get some new gear, make sure that you take advantage of some of these deals. The first deal that Sam and Leaf are running is that you'll get 5% back on any of your 2020 Atomic and Head equipment orders. And so if you make those orders between now and August 1st, they're going to give you 5% back on your purchase. Or if you're a member of a ski team, they will take that 5% and they will give it back to you for team development funds. And so I don't know if you're part of a ski team, a lot of the folks, the Denver Sports Lab helps out. They are part of those ski groups. And so that's one of those perks. But if not, you can just take it for yourself. And so make sure that if you're going to buy any of that 2020 Atomic or Head equipment, you take advantage of that 5% back deal by August 1st. The other thing is they got a lot of stuff left over from 2019. I was just talking to Jay, and I think he and I might be buying some 2019 equipment. If you're looking for some new equipment, shoot them an email, contact@denversportslab.com, because they've got skis from Atomic, Blizzard, Fisher, and Head, as well as boots from Technica and Fisher. If you want to get some new gear and see what they have left over in stock, give Sam and Leaf a call at 720-383-8999. You can also email them at contact@denversportslab.com. Let them know if you're interested in any of that stock that's still there from 2019 or any of those new orders for 2020. You want to make sure they're
they're in by August 1st, so you can take advantage of that 5% back. Denver Sports Lab, Salmon Leaf, they are the best in the business. Jay and I will vouch for that. They've taken care of us. They've taken care of our friends. And we would love for you to take advantage of what they can offer. And so in addition to any of those products that I just mentioned, when you're getting ready for the next ski season, make sure that you have Salmon Leaf take care of you, because they are the best tuners in the business. Whether you're a boarder, whether you're a skier, they will take care of you. That's Denver Sports Lab, and you can learn more at denversportslab.com.
All right, along those lines, I want to ask a little bit of a difficult question. So, I mean, it's kind of mythological status up here, mythical status for sure. How do you three decide, and everybody else, what we're going to kind of put on tap here and experiment with, almost like a Mockery? We were at Mockery a few weeks ago and really embrace that kind of experimental and not so much the distribution. How do you kind of manage that split between what you're only going to have on here and then what you can make sure ships well and travels well, and what kind of pressures does it put on you as a brewer?
I mean, it is interesting, especially for something like cereal pitching yeast, just because we have a lot of dead ends.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, you know, I think everything basically starts here out of our tap room prior to going to distribution. But yeah, we kind of gauge how things do here and how the local crowd reacts to it. And then we kind of go from there. Okay.
Well, I guess, Colin, or Kristen, from your perspective, do you look at numbers? Do you like to say, okay, wow, this is really taking off, let's try, distributing this? Or is it something?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
Nothing like that at all. It's truly, and this is what's so fun about bringing in people like Dereck. We also have a new cat that joined the team right around the same time Skip. And along with Nate, these guys comprise the leadership in the back of the house. But what we've been able to do just in the short time that Derek's been here is really get a lot more inclusion into the recipe process, the idea process. And everybody is using varied palettes to fine-tune. Fine-tune is our big word of the year. Diving in and fine-tuning not just beers, but people, processes, all sorts of things. But everybody's been able to really kind of chime in on that beer execution, and it's really up the game because we've been able to. It's no longer just like. And it was never me, it was my partner Neil, but it's no longer just Neil tasting and going like, let's take it here, let's take it there, and he definitely still contributes heavily to that process. But when you can build a structure that incorporates everybody's own individual imprints on what they like and where they think styles are going and everything else, and you can find a collaborative way and a very communicative and respectful way to include everybody. You don't want to just a pot of just everybody's shit just dumping in there, of course, but everybody is very cognizant of the beer and making sure that it comes out perfectly executed. And so, and all these cats have great frickin' palates, much better than mine, but we're getting more people participating in that process, and it's really strengthened our beer output game quite a bit. But we don't look at numbers, we don't look at anybody else. We do look at other breweries and who we love and what they're up to and everything else. We attend a lot of festivals. Kristen has us scheduled all over the frickin' nation, like 365 days a year, so we do a lot of traveling. But the good part about that is you're seeing these other taproom environments. You're experiencing this other element of customer service. Gosh, they did that. Why don't we do this? Let's do that. Okay, done. And they're brewing this. Like, could you even imagine that? You could brew it with this. What did we just do? Gummy bears with Cerebral? Yeah. Nice. So we just brewed
When's that going to be available?
Oh, it's already out and it's sold out. So
Shit.
It came in. Wow. And it was good. It was good. It was really good.
Is that one ever coming back? Let's be honest.
When it's that popular, and I'll pick on maybe Spaghetti Goza as well. When it's something that's truly out of left field. So we brewed Spaghetti Goza. For GABF last year, served it with little slices of pizza, and it's definitely a foodie kind of a beer. But we're not afraid to take those kind of risks, and we're not afraid to like just carry in 10 pizzas. But as GABF security's looking at us, going like, "Are they supposed just act like you're supposed to, and you're not going to get questioned?" So we all do that. But that just that experience, that customer experience of trying something that just, what the hell am I drinking? We love doing that to people. That said, we're never going to put out a shitty beer. We have good enough palates that we're not going to release a shitty spaghetti goza. It's going to be a weird beer, but it's going to be a well-executed weird beer. You know what I mean?
Do you think you have more freedom up here than you would if you were in Denver? Like, do you have more experimental freedom?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Do you think you have more experimental freedom? Is there less pressure maybe up here?
I don't think our locale has anything to do with our experimentation. I think our locale definitely would have altered where we're at right now, just in terms of operations and strategy and growth.
Yeah.
I have no idea what we would have been like had we been down there. But being kind of an oasis and not having to compete in the Denver scene, we never competed in Denver since day one. We're not like, gosh, how do we get people from Denver? Anything along those lines. So kind of being an outlier in our own small town, we were able to kind of just do whatever the hell we wanted to do, and just let the chips fall where they may. We opened up, there weren't long lines, there wasn't this expectation, nobody knew us before we did this, and so we were able to play the slow and low game, and we opened I'm so sorry you were here on opening weekend.
I was going to ask what kind of impact that had. I mean, it took him a couple of years to come back around and get the job. Was he blackballed after day one?
No,
and the 3-year limit was up.
The fact that he showed up for 4 beers that we had on tap for pretty much a whole year. It took 6 months for us to really kind of cut our teeth on the system and figure out how we build a team and process around 3 people, myself, my partner Neil, and Kristen, and we brewed on Fridays, and we switched turns manning the tap room during the week. I think we were closed Monday and Tuesday there for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
And so it was just a homegrown, homespun, and everything else, and we fortunately just kind of kept growing, and we were smart about how we opened and with what amount of cash we opened with, and costs were low because we're in Greeley, and we were able to be patient and play the long game with it, and that all kind of culminated, wouldn't you say, at our first anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
That's really when we hit the ground running with Juicy Bits and Medianoche and everything else, and that's when we had the lines, and that's kind of when that's when we hit the scene, and the word got out. So
speaking of Medianoche, my buddy Eric wrote a bunch of questions I was supposed to ask. He's like your fanboy, by the way. Another professor. He's a professor with me. He wanted to know if you're going to make any of the double barrel Medianoche or the coffee maple Medianoche again.
I don't think anything's really off the table.
Okay.
I mean, Noche it hangs out in barrels for about 18 months.
Okay.
Most of the adjuncts come once it's debarreled.
Okay.
But it's possible that we'd be doing those again.
I think he drives up here every week.
I think we always
so
try and
okay.
keep things fresh and
Okay.
do different things and kind of keep the creative process going.
Fantastic.
So.
Okay.
Eric, if you're listening right now, as far as I can tell, there are 3 Medianoches on tap right now.
Yeah.
We got a coffee rye, an 18. That's the 7-year aged in 7-year Breckenridge bourbon barrels.
He gave me $100 to come up here and buy beer, so that's
and then
that's
the rye
this is the
vanilla.
second time I've done it. Just $100. I got to load up and put it in the trunk and drive it back to us.
And you
So
take
one-
10%, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One funny thing, and I'll let Dereck to speak to it, but our coconut brandy, so we served that over at Invitational. I think we tapped it right for the Invitational, right? We had it on here at the tap room too, but we poured that over at Invitational, and the ratings on that beer was just, it's the best and biggest Medianoche that we've released to date. Can you say why? I know we use special barrels and we're tweaking the recipe, but why?
So it was the Noche was aged in brandy barrels, and then it sat on a mix of toasted and raw coconut,
Okay.
which is pretty rare to do, raw especially.
Yeah.
I'd played around with raw coconut in the past and didn't really get much out of it.
Okay.
But we used it at, I believe, a pound per gallon. So there was a lot of coconut in there. So picked up a ton of coconut flavor, and not just the normal toasted coconut flavor that you're used to getting in a beer. So it was really interesting. It was super coconut forward, and then the brandy kind of mellowed it all out, and it all just came together, and people seemed to love it. So
was it like a milky taste too? Like you had that kind of raw, like I guess explain a little bit kind of in terms of the palate that made it so unique from just a regular toasted coconut.
It was definitely a little more nuanced than what you would get from a coconut beer, where you're just like candied coconut. Yeah, it was really interesting. I'm sad to see that it's gone already.
No, that's your beers don't. Your special ones especially don't stay here very long. I've noticed. Let me ask about the branding and the marketing, because that is what I mean. This place. People stand outside for hours to buy your beer. You have, grabbed social media by the throat and really figured this thing out. Is this you, Kristen? I mean,
no.
Did you know from day one that we're going to do this? I mean, at what point was that conversation had between, the decision makers that we can use this platform to really boost our brand and spread it, not just locally, but also nationally?
I mean, it's really funny, actually, because it's all been completely organic.
Yeah.
We actually didn't even really have anyone focused on marketing until, 6 months ago.
Wow.
Our director of sales, Jake, became our director of sales and marketing.
Okay.
He's got a natural knack for it. But until then, I mean, we'd spend probably like $500 a year total on marketing efforts, just like a boost of Facebook posts here and there. But we decided to become more intentional about it because, we do have eyes from all over the country on us, which is so humbling and so incredible. And we want to make sure that as we grow, it's all very cohesive, and that our story and who we are and what we want to share with the world is being communicated properly. But yeah, one of my friends works for a PR firm, and she always used to laugh about how it's amazing that for you guys not actively trying to put all this effort into shaping the story of, this is who we are. She's like, it's amazing that it's all been positive because people have been telling the story for us, and it's astounding that it's been such a great one. But we're getting a handle on it now, I think.
You were kind of one of the first ones to really embrace Untapped, right? And the kind of popularity of, I don't know if you did it on purpose or whatever, but just as a beer drinker, your stuff was on there, and I wonder just how much of it was just kind of serendipity. It sounds like in a lot of ways, and then,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we were all very familiar with Untapped, and back in the early days, we would be cheersing or toasting every, check-in and everything, and I think that kind of personal element stood out, too, because we would be taking the time to do that. But, yeah, it's just the beer has been quality, and people notice that.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
I do, actually, but I'm going to turn it right back over to this guy. But, Untapped, it gets vilified. And you certainly can't listen to it 100%, and you can't use it as a mechanism to say, what should we do next? And I don't know a brewery that does that. I really don't. And I also don't know any breweries that put flour in their hazy IPAs. I'm just going to say that right now. But that said...
So wait, that's a myth? That doesn't actually happen?
God damn you. I mean,
okay.
Jeez. It's so crazy. But that said, it does give us a good insight into... We care so fucking much about our customers. We really, really do. We, from just the taproom experience to... how the beers look in packaging, to DO levels and everything else, we definitely keep a keen eye on that. And thankfully, we've, again, adding staff and adding expertise and really rounding out the crew, we've finally been able to really start to get a sensory program off the ground. But that sensory program in conjunction with Untapped will really kind of tell us, are we on the right path or not? And I will pause it right there and let Dereck kind of finish that comment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Untapped dictates what we're doing, but obviously we want to know what our consumers think of the beer, and that gives them a direct voice and gives us immediate feedback. And like Colin mentioned, Skip is on board now, and he put together our sensory program. So every week we're sitting down and tasting what's in barrels, what's in brights, what's in the fermenter. We're bringing in guest beers as well to kind of compare our beers blindly to those guest beers as well. Just really trying to hone in our process of, getting everybody's palates on board and getting everybody using the same vernacular, everybody trying to taste the same things.
Yeah.
And granted, everybody's palate is going to be different, but we're able to then kind of gauge what we're doing and make process changes to adequately, work with that.
So I guess kind of understand some of the sales softwares that are out there, especially for a brewery and also small businesses. But in terms of being behind the curtain, what does Untapped offer you as a brewery owner or as a brewer or as a director of operations? Do they give you data that allows you to kind of figure out the consumer a little more, or no? Like there's nothing like that. I don't know. I mean, this is a.
Do you want to talk about the festival
ignorance.
aspect of Untapped?
So we've started using, it's been 2 years, but we use Untapped for our festival as well.
Okay.
And the data and output that we get from that is really cool to see and really valuable. Kind of keeps us dialed in on, it's typically a barrel-aged heavy festival, is that working, or do people want to see more of, or so that aspect has been really cool, at least from the festival perspective.
Yeah, check-ins, being able to tie the check-ins to where is this Untapped person from.
Okay.
It's very, very basic analytics, and honestly, it's nothing that we really hardcore use.
Yeah.
We're more functioning in the world of Ecos. Ecos is our brew system.
Okay.
Handles everything from recipe ordering, ingredients, to batch creation, COGS analysis. That's all the sales guys put their orders in there. Logistics does their printouts, their loadouts, all that sort of good stuff. We use barcoding on everything, so we know where everything is at all points in time. But by and large, I would say that probably the system we use most is our taproom manager, Eric, utilizes Square for style trends.
Nice.
And that's probably the most important part, to say stylistically, here's 4 double IPAs, which one did well, and then we can say to Dereck, like, hey, 3.8 is doing better than everything else. Item box is a firm number 2. These other ones are not. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Or maybe why?
Yeah.
Why are these the leaders and these aren't? And sometimes it's a marketing effort too, and so we have a lot of fun with that. Sometimes we've gotten into the game of doing some A/B testing, and so we'll put a beer on the board here in the tap room, and we'll call it it's the same beer, and we'll call it 2 different things.
Nice.
Just to see, like,
this
is
is
it
amazing.
the name?
Yeah.
Is it the way that it's presented? Is it the label?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it about this that is making it move? And I'll be quite honest, most of the experiments have failed. We don't have enough data to really understand the nuance between A and B testing there. But just the fact that we're willing to experiment in that way and try to dig into the whys of, we're very scientifically minded in that regard, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We probably have the shortest lab of maybe any brewery in Colorado right now. It's turning a corner, but that said, we are all scientifically minded, and we're very interested into the whys of how things are. So,
I'm taking over this conversation. Sorry, Jay. Did
That's
you have
all
more
right.
questions?
No. And I've kind of lost my train of thought, frankly, listening to the science behind it. And it's funny, the Square thing always cracks me up, because coming from my banking and finance background, Square is like...
Oh, it's so simple. It's like
It's
the
just-
most bare bones
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
it's just like a plug and pay.
Right.
Like, anybody can use it, anybody can have it, but if you know how to use it the right
it's
way,
valuable.
and you turn to it and you rely on it, it becomes a marketing tool. It becomes a research tool.
Are they paying us for advertising?
No, they
Wow,
should be, though.
jeez.
Jeez. I mean, not Square. That wasn't Square that does that.
No,
That was the other guy.
startup.
And I would say this too. I don't know if we would be relying so much on Square if we didn't change beers every single week.
Okay.
Square is a time and a place analysis.
Yeah.
And less more a style, like, how does this style do over the long term? But because we change beers so frequently, it's more about that seasonality, the release day of, what was the week before, what was the week after, event-wise. Maybe Greeley was doing something, maybe they weren't.
Yeah.
Maybe we had an event, maybe we did our invitational, and so the next weekend, like, this place is totally, like, sparse. It's more about that seasonality and time and day trend more than it is style. Yeah. So if we had like a Fat Tie or a White Rascal or something like that, Square's probably not going to be the best analytics into why, but because we change beer so frequently, it absolutely works for us in that analysis regard.
So changing beers, last year, 18 was the year of what, 100 beers, is that right?
137. Yeah. We needed to shore up the recipe bank, and we did it.
Good, so. good. And what did that do from a drinker's perspective? I mean, did you see people coming back day after day, week after week, looking for every new beer that was coming down the pike? Or were there people that were like, you know what, I'm in tune with the 5 or 6 or 8 that I like, quit screwing with it?
I mean, it was a bit of a mixed bag, but especially seeing this year compared to last, 6 months in, we can definitely tell that it was a really, it was an experiment. It was a fun one, and it was very beneficial to our taproom, actually. We would release beers on draft on Thursday and then in packaged format on Friday, and every Friday was phenomenal. We were getting everyone from all over the state really coming up, and every Thursday was kind of like the locals' day, and we had some people that would even, 49 weeks in, be like, I have not missed a Friday yet. I come up from Denver or wherever.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, it was kind of cool. Like, as we were saying, we don't heavily rely on Untapped, but it was kind of fun to go back at the end of the year, and we did a users poll also, and just say, like, all right, well, what are our top beers here? And say, like, well, these are apparently good ones. People liked them, so we're going to rebrew them. That's why we've been, re-releasing a lot of the fan favorites, which has been, really great for this year too, and back to that kind of fine-tuning, taking those beers, because it was a lot. Our production team went through a lot, so making sure that we're making any necessary tweaks to improve the beer. It got a little a little crazy towards the end. It's like, all right, well, this, people are kind of giving us grief about this is basically the same beer as that with one simple addition or one edit, but but we were having fun with it, and I think by and large everyone else did too.
Yeah. Don't listen to those 1 or 2 haters on that stuff.
Always going to be haters.
To kind of speak to what Kristen was saying, having released such a insane amount of beers in 1 year, it definitely, we can go back, revisit the ones that were successful, maybe the ones that weren't quite as successful, kind of determine, what process changes, what ingredient changes can we make? Could we sub out a different hop? Could we change this malt? Could we add an adjunct here or there? Could we take what was kind of a base and turn it into something completely different? Mm-hmm. So that keeps it really interesting and fresh.
Makes total sense. In respect of your time, we'll wrap this up, but got to ask you, the three of you are trying to make this the final question. What is the beer, the craft beer ideally, that kind of introduced you to this industry, that changed how you drink beer and why you drink beer and all of these things? Is there a particular beer that you had, whether it be in Indiana or whether it be out here, that you said, wow, like this is, I want to do this, or this is special? Start with Kristen. Christine.
Christine.
With a C.
With a C, yes, of course. Honestly, it was probably back in Indiana. I went to Indiana University, and at the time was a small brewery down there called Upland. And it just kind of blew my mind to see what craft is. Yeah. Not just from the beer. Like, at the time, 21, sure, 21.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Upland
Those
Wheat.
Big Ten schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. Upland Wheat was the first switch from Keystone Light, and I was like, oh wow, this is something special. And then you start going to the brewery, and it really illustrated to me what craft is, from a product, from an experience. It was the introduction to this culture and this industry, and it is the most amazing industry in the world to be in.
Yeah, agree. It's pretty special. Dereck?
For me, it was probably Left Hand's Milk Stout.
Yeah.
And also Left Hand's Good Juju, their ginger pale ale.
Okay.
Were
Nice.
both amazing and both way ahead of their time, back before lactose was going into IPAs. I mean, lactose was a crazy adjunct to be adding to beer. and that's still one of my favorite beers. So
Were they kind of the first ones to really push that envelope?
on a large scale, yeah,
Yeah.
they were for sure.
Good to know. We got to get up there.
Yeah, we do.
Colin.
I would say for me, it's more about experience.
Okay.
Yeah. And the team behind the breweries. So I'll pick on like Cerebral, crushable beers. I mean, any beer that they come out with they're my favorite brewery right now in Colorado, and I'm sure that'll change next year, and I'll be glommed onto to somebody else. But just the vibe, the energy, the team that they have over there. That's what I always look at. It's just, are these people treated right? Are they given the tools to succeed? Are they cared about? Is that care then coming out in the beer? And in their example, it absolutely is. And so it's super fun to visit. Again, Kristen sends us all over the place. Quit sending us all over the place. But we go all over the place, and we see all these different breweries, and they're all doing different things. Great friends over at Holmes Brewing in Michigan. They have an awesome kind of a Thai fusion restaurant going on. We have friends in Brooklyn. We have friends all over the place, and some are in city centers, and some are in the outskirts, and everywhere in between. But it's that passion piece that I just glom onto. Mm-hmm. Everybody has it in different stages and for different reasons. I would say operationally, like, nobody can beat us, and I don't have any problems saying that, but entrepreneurial spirit wise, we are definitely get beat by the upstarts, and it's just fun to see, to your point, the reasons why they got into it and what beers made them excited and how they're defining their taproom experience around that love of whatever they're coming from, and that synergy and energy of where they're coming from, but for me, again, it's just more of that experience piece of it, that connected piece of it. And that's what we're trying to do a little bit more of a better job here. To Kristen's point, we haven't really invested a whole lot into marketing and to really defining our story. And we should be the primary storytellers of our story and not the public. And we've been gracious. We've been given the grace of the public for them to tell a great story about us, sight unseen. But it's time for us to control that message and to do a little bit better job of being a little particular about that and guiding that and really taking the next step with that. But there's cool people out there doing a lot of cool things, and all of us here at WeldWerks are soaking all that up by players like Wiley Roots, Cerebral, Liquid Mechanics in this state, and then everywhere beyond, Voodoo and everybody else.
I will say this, though. The ones, we've done enough of these interviews. It seems like the ones that have that long-term, there's longevity there. You can see it. It's the fact that you focus on the inside first, right? That internal communication, the internal workings of the operation, making sure the brand has to be solid from the inside out. And so when you say that and you think about turning outward facing, oftentimes, a lot of these breweries that just don't make it, they start from that as point A, as opposed to waiting and figuring out how things work inside before pivoting and looking outside. So props to you. And I would say that so much of the success of what you guys have done here has to do with that. Even just body language, sitting here and having this conversation, it's very clear that you get along and that you are confident in the product and that you three, especially in your different departments, know what the fuck you're doing. So this is fantastic.
Well, in the same vein as the tasting notes on our beers and including more breweries and the designing of our beers and everything else that we're doing in that regard, everything is built to be scalable here. And we're not a typical brewery where it's just me and Neil going like, what do you want to do? I want to do this. Okay, let's do that. Yeah. Like, him and I don't have really much to do with anything of the day-to-day operations and what happens. We've picked our heads up and we look upward and onward from that. And we leave it up to our teams to add their own spice in life and their own palates and their own experience and create your own events and create your own beers and all that sort of stuff. And I think we are a leader because of that. And it's, as a business owner, it's hard to let go a lot of times. and we have done a very, very fucking good job of letting go and
That's
just
great.
letting talented people run with it.
Yeah, that's what it's all
You
about.
guys do your thing. Like, we'll be all right.
All right.
I need management like that.
I know, exactly.
I need to manage
got
more.
you.
Thank
like,
you.
I need to
you
manage
three.
more like
Let's
that.
do a
Yeah.
cheers real quick. Let's put the mics in there.
that, baby.
There we go. Thank you so much. Everybody's heard of WeldWerks, but if you haven't, you got to get to Greeley. I mean, they are, I would argue, the best beer in the state.
Find them on the shelf. Find them in the bar. But get your ass to Greeley.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you all. Appreciate it
Have a
so
good day,
much.
guys.